Hey, this is Engineer Out and About. My name is PJ. I'm here with Ed Finkler. We're at Lone Star PHP in Dallas, Texas. Ed, you're here. You're giving a talk about programmer depression.
Yes, yeah, and other mental illnesses. Basically, it's called open sourcing mental illness, and so that's the talk I'm at least most excited about. I gave another one about code simplicity earlier, but yeah, the main one that I'm doing about is called open sourcing mental illness, and I'm giving this talk at a few different places.
Including Distill.
I am giving this talk at Distill. Yeah, they were kind enough to pick me, and I'm honored to speak with the kind of lineup there that's just nuts. I think I was saying that it's a little weird to see your face underneath Nolan Bushnell in the list of speakers. But yeah, so I'm giving that talk, and the idea really is to get folks talking more openly about mental illness. And to accomplish really, I guess, a couple things for folks who thankfully don't have much problem with that. They can understand better what it's like, and then the other side of it is trying to end or lessen the stigma for talking about these kinds of things that for folks who do have it, because the feedback I've gotten when I've spoken openly about this stuff constantly is that the fact that you're talking about this is amazing. I thought I was the only one who was like this, or very few people know about this, and I'm afraid to talk about it, and all this stuff.
It's almost like a closeted situation.
Yeah, it really is. I think a lot of people feel. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but there's a lot of feeling that well, I should just be stronger and tough it out, or this is something where you just have to try harder. And when people aren't able to do that, when that doesn't work, which usually doesn't work, they feel really ashamed. They feel like something's wrong with them, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to share it for fear of, people not understanding, potential repercussions in their social life or family life or business. And I think that's a big reason why I wanted to talk more about this. So just that's what I'm really aiming to do with this, and I think the community has been extremely supportive. I had an Indiegogo campaign because a lot of the conferences that I was hoping to speak at, they aren't able to or don't provide support for speakers to for say travel or lodging or things like that. That could get pretty expensive. So I asked, I set a goal for $3,000 for this campaign to try to raise money. I wasn't really comfortable with it, but people said, no, you should really do that, because I would love it. And I don't like asking people for money. That's not,
It's not fun.
No, I'm not comfortable with that. And it's not like I'm horribly off or anything like that, but it was, several $1,000s to kind of to do what I'd like to do, and we nearly doubled it. It was
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we got about $5,800, and so that allows me to speak at more places. And I'm trying to videotape every time I give this talk. I videotaped it at Open Source Bridge. I gave it just last week, and that's just gone really well. I've just gotten really good feedback. People seem to really it's touching something in them, and dealing with something that I think we really don't talk about enough,
Right.
and that a lot more people deal with than I think we understand or are willing to admit.
Right.
And so it's just the feedback. It's the reaction has been amazing. So,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think part of the issue that people have dealing with this is that, as coders, we approach almost any problem in the same way. It's, we try to learn, we try to attack, but it's still a very isolated, insular, just us working on a problem, and they view this, even though it's outside of that realm, it's not code, it's yourself, but you're still dealing with it in the same way. I'll just try to fix this myself and not so much push out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think it's a lot of coders tend to be self-help folks, and it's like, right, I'm going to learn about this myself, and I'm going to solve this problem myself.
Exactly.
And in general, it really doesn't work that way. I feel strongly that folks need to go out and look to to professionals in the field, therapists, to try to figure out what's going on, because a lot of times, we talk about, say, something like depression or anxiety as it's a condition, but it's also really a symptom of something else going on,
Right.
and that could be a bunch of things. It could be just my brain kind of tends to work this way. It could also just be some emotional trauma that is unconsciously affecting me.
Right.
It could be some other health issue that you're dealing with. I had a woman who wrote me a really extensive letter about how it took her about a decade, I think, to get diagnosed that she had a sort of an obscure pituitary problem
Really?
that was causing a lot of this. And but for a long time, it was just like, normal treatments weren't solving the issues that she was in, and so that just made that was something that was interesting. So I think the key thing is that you need to be actively engaged with it, and it's not something like, well, I'll take this medicine and it solves the problem, right? You really need to be actively engaged with figuring out why this is happening, and working at that. And also, I think, which sometimes I think, as a lot as coders, we're not always great about, but you really need a supportive social structure around you.
Right.
And you need to have friends that you can talk to. You need to have, people that you can trust to work with on these things, because I think the key thing is feeling like you have to deal with this in isolation. Mm-hmm. is the hardest thing, and can be really destructive. And we hear about folks who, they seemed like they were always very positive. Heard about folks in the open source community who were really, engaged in community stuff and always there and things like that. And a guy who was really, very actively involved in the Portland open source community just a few months ago committed suicide. And that really took a lot of people off guard. He was always at events. He seemed very social and things like that, but
behind the smile, there was something going on.
Yeah, he was clearly dealing with some really serious stuff there. And I guess the key thing is, like, let's just keep trying to talk about this and make sure that people feel that it's okay to talk about this. Provide resources to them to speak privately, and if they need to, and just keep that dialogue open, right? And try not to make it so scary for folks. Try to be understanding. Try to and if you don't suffer from mental illnesses, that's great. But you have to. I think there's a lot of work to be done to understand what it's like, so that you can be empathetic to that situation.
Right on.
And so, yeah, I'm trying to kind of come at it from that perspective, I think.
Now let me ask, because you mentioned you had another talk about coding simplicity. Do you actually think that by kind of attacking things from that angle, like if you're making more simple code, more straightforward code, do you feel like maybe that alleviates some of the things and frees people up so they can start to realize that maybe there's problems outside of their work life?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I'm not sure how directly tied those things are, but I do think that, let me put it this way. I think it's really, really important to have a healthy balance between what you do for your work and as, if it's a sort of a hobby thing that you do on the side. I think that human interaction is really important. And I know that it's hard for some people in our community where they don't always feel like they fit in so well, and they have trouble with that. And that's I understand, because I'm kind of like that too. And I think that I think it's really not healthy to be the kind of person who's like coding all the time, like 18 hours a day, and always
shutting themselves off.
Yeah, and I don't think that's great. I think sometimes in some ways we sort of admire, and we think that, like, oh, that's the kind of person I'd like to hire.
Superman.
He's always thinking about code and stuff like that, and I can kind of dig that. But I think that, whatever that is, I think that can take many forms. But like having interaction with other people. I think most people are pretty like they want to be social,
Right.
and it's a matter of really figuring out where they can find that and how to get that.
Well, in a
So
way,
yeah.
it's kind of almost like I know we were talking about this with some of the other speakers, like performance anxiety. Just before they go up on stage, the hands are shaking, and it's almost like social interaction for a lot of people in the tech community in general. Like that's something that's difficult. That they have to approach that barrier and go through it.
Right.
But it's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, so I think, and particularly, I think one of the things that sometimes I see as kind of disturbing is this kind of encouragement of doing everything at work. Like, oh, free lunch and we'll have a little beer party on Friday and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I think it's important to like, here's your work life. Your work life should end at like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
And then you should get out of the office. And it's fine. You can hang out with people, and maybe you hang out with people from the office or whatever. But I think you need to. I really think it's important to have a balance there.
Mm-hmm.
And that balance might be, well, you know what, I do community stuff outside here, or I do, and whatever's getting out there. But as long as I don't like that that notion where you sort of you have people who are like spending all their time at the office or spending all their time working, and I just don't think that's a healthy balance.
I agree.
It doesn't work for me, I know, and I suspect that folks who think that it's not a big deal for them now, I think that it will be a bigger deal for them as they get older. I think there's going to be a tendency to burn out on that, and I think some companies tend to take advantage of it, especially younger folks and that who maybe have less responsibilities outside of work and don't do anything to discourage that. And
Right.
I wish they would.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. So now comes the constant question I ask. So if at a young age, and
Yes.
this is a dark subject, but
Yep.
if at a young age your parents were murdered in front of you,
Yep. Sure.
would you have become Batman or still continued on and become a developer?
Well, that's a good question. I'm kind of thinking Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Batman, he probably does some coding.
Yeah.
Like, he's a pretty technical dude.
And he's got to be doing it open source.
He's engineer. Yeah, right? He shares some stuff like with other. Is he in the Justice League?
He is in the Justice
Yeah,
League,
so-
but I think he's like the project manager of the Justice League, and the fact that like he's like, oh, we need to do some sort of computer search. Okay, guys, I'll take care of this. Please don't touch my keyboard.
You guys, Wonder Twins, you step over there.
Yeah. Go make a bucket of water.
Right.
I'm getting thirsty.
Patchy Chief, you grow, and
And Superman, you go look cool with your nice hair.
yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, I kind of think I kind of tend to hold a grudge, so I'm thinking Batman.
All right.
So yeah.
Right on. Ed, thank you.
Hey,
This has
thanks
been
for doing
Engineered
it.
Out and About, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.